Hi everyone, I'm Maddie, and welcome back to another episode of Tech Insights for Visionaries. On this podcast, we cover the latest technology trends and how they affect the lives of businesses and consumers. This podcast is produced by a team of software engineers from MobiDev, software development company. They share their experience in machine learning, augmented reality, and other data science technologies. This and other episodes are posted as articles on mobidev.biz. For more details, be sure to check them out.
Hey, I'm Sean. Today, we're going to be talking about some very important trends that are a hot topic in web development this year. No matter the industry your business plays a role in, having a solid web solution that can effectively serve your customers is crucial. This has become even more important now that the global pandemic has accelerated the expansion of e-commerce.
This sounds like we're getting into a bit more than just websites.
Yes. Today, we're going to dive into the software technologies and techniques that industry leaders are using today to build and expand their web development projects. We'll talk about the new technologies that enable you to shorten your development time, increase performance, and maintain security at the same time. The first trend we'll talk about is finding the most optimal infrastructure. It's really important that a business chooses the right infrastructure that can meet their objectives efficiently. There are a lot of factors that play into this, such as performance, scalability, capacity, maintenance costs, and more. However, ambiguity leads to confusion. For example, a microservice architecture without DevOps doesn't always operate faster. When it comes to the speed of development, a cloud platform is one of the best options, although it does come with its own set of costs. There are two types of infrastructure services: backend as a service, BaaS, and platform as a service, PaaS, available today. Backend as a service is also known as mobile backend as a service, MBaaS. This provides developers with a service that connects web or mobile apps to cloud services with the help of APIs or SDKs. By applying BaaS, a company can reduce time to market and costs spent on infrastructure management. Prominent providers of backend as a service solutions are Parse, Firebase, AWS Amplify, Azure Mobile Apps, and CloudKit.
So what I'm hearing is backend as a service helps developers by giving them a cloud-based backend to hook into so that they don't have to maintain their own?
Definitely. That's the main advantage. I should also mention functions as a service, which is integrated into BaaS. This allows for the creation of microservices apps that can be useful for developers. Some popular fast solutions are IBM Cloud Functions, Amazon's AWS Lambda, Google Cloud Functions, Microsoft Azure Functions, and OpenFaaS. Now, Platform as a Service, PaaS, is a bit different. It provides the infrastructure for app development, and not necessarily delivered through the cloud like backend as a service. This platform-based service operates as software on a public infrastructure, private or public cloud service. It includes various templates, tools, libraries, and codes. Through Platform as a Service solutions, the development process becomes faster, while implementation costs are reduced.
It sounds to me like each of these options really is about how much the business wants to manage the project.
That's a great way of summing it up. We can view these options as a spectrum, where backend as a service requires less management from the business, and platform as a service allows the business more management options over the applications and business services. When you start working with infrastructure as a service and then on-premises solutions, your business manages more and more of the project. Naturally, what you choose depends on what is best for your business. The next trend we'll talk about is JAMstack, as an alternative to tools for monolithic architecture. The term JAMstack was introduced by Matthias Billman, CEO at Netlify, and it implies the combination of three basic elements: JavaScript, API, and markup. It could be viewed as a methodology or even philosophy of fast, safe, and scalable web and app development. By applying JAMstack, developers do not bother with back-end server logic, focusing rather on the presentation layer. The major part of the functionality is kept on the client side, and other features that require heavy labor are realized through third-party APIs. Therefore, lots of SaaS apps and outstanding websites have already been built with JAMstack. This trend provides strong perspectives for web and app development, combining the best tools and technologies, such as React, Webpack, React Router, GraphQL, in one solution. The main workflow of JAMstack is first to write code and push it to a source repository, design pre-built content, and then ship built files to a content delivery network, also known as a CDN. Once that's done, a user can request a page and have it be delivered to them via the CDN. There's no need to interact with the origin server because the pre-built content is available from the CDN. Core updates are pushed through Git. This allows for the rebuilding of the site via up-to-date tools. Static site generators like Gatsby or Hugo are good examples of such tools because they form an integral part of the JAMstack approach. Some industry leaders using this approach are Mozilla, Nike, and Smashing Magazine. However, their reasons for using JAMstack vary. The primary driver for using these techniques is to reduce reliance on a server by means of solving tasks on the client side, lightening the load, and improving performance. According to a survey conducted by Netlify, typical business use cases for JAMstack include about 45% consumer software, 36% internal tooling, and 35% enterprise software.
Doesn't that total up above 100%?
Great catch. That's because respondents could select multiple options.
Oh, that makes sense now.
JAMstack is great for providing high availability for large sites, serving millions of users yearly, but it's not suitable for web application development.
I can see why this would be extremely useful on a large scale. If I had a large website like a social network, I'd definitely want to reduce the load on the system since I'd be getting millions of users and traffic, with millions of photos to browse through as well. A CDN would be really helpful in reducing that load and keeping the experience fast for everyone.
Absolutely. It's a great way to speed up a large website. Okay, let's talk about static site generators, also called SSGs. These are software apps that help create HTML pages based on templates or components and content sources. SSGs could be a sufficient alternative to database-driven content management systems and website builders like Boxmode or Wix. This is a popular trend because of the difference between it and the traditional web app stack. Static site generators allow for obtaining the page view in advance and serving ahead of time. Because of this, there's no need to wait until the page is requested and generated. Since it renders in advance, websites developed with an SSG have a higher level of security against malware.
Oh, I see. Since they're rendering in advance, it's harder for hackers to exploit the software since it's harder to modify and change.
You got it. The task of managing large-scale content projects is being simplified through web frameworks applications like Gatsby, Gridsome, Eleventy, and Next to Nuxt. It's worth noting that Figma and DigitalOcean are based on Gatsby.js, which is a fast and smooth framework with an advanced ecosystem. Next, let's talk about switching to Headless CMS. Companies that opt for Headless CMS win by implementing scalable and flexible solutions. In Headless CMS, a back-end content management system, the presentation layer, head, and the content repository, body, are separated from one another. This interface in Headless CMS allows users to manage APIs and content. However, in this solution, content doesn't receive attention in terms of how it's displayed. The main idea is to store and deliver content, enabling editors to develop it together. Headless CMS continues to rise in popularity, being used by popular solutions like Ghost, Strapi, and Netlify CMS that are based on JAMstack. Tinder, Buffer, Duolingo, Mozilla, and DuckDuck use Ghost for the blog portions of their site. IBM, Walmart, NASA, and Societe Generale use Strapi. According to a study by researchandmarkets.com, the Headless CMS software market is estimated to grow to a value of $1,628.6 million by 2027. And is expected to grow at a CAGR of 22.6% from 2020 to 2027.
Looks like we're definitely powering into the future here. Depending on your needs, Headless CMS may be the best option for your business.
Before we go on, I want to talk a little bit about uniting serverless solutions and microservices. Instead of building large, beefy applications, a microservices approach unbundles software into many different smaller and lightweight applications. Back-end development trends have been moving towards this in recent years, and it's a great way to scale fast-growing projects with exponential user-base growth. Serverless microservices can also help businesses get out of vendor lock-in. You can choose Lambda Serverless, Google Cloud Functions, or Microsoft Azure Functions as the basis of the project.
That's really interesting. We're moving away from the traditional way of building these applications and doing something new.
Okay, next up, let's talk about Acessing custom API. It's important that information can be fetched from a server with as little delay as possible. GraphQL is being used for providing descriptions of the data in the API. It could be perceived as an alternative to the REST-based architecture. Unlike REST, GraphQL is an appropriate tool to request specific data.
So since descriptions of the data are already provided in the API, that helps speed up the process?
Exactly. When rendering a page, most applications need complex data. However, GraphQL fetches that data in a query without delay, resulting in a much quicker application. There are hundreds of organizations using this technology, like GitHub, the New York Times, and more. Let's shift gears a little bit to talk about enterprise web development trends. Web application development for enterprise has a lot of peculiarities. Each enterprise has their own specific needs. Our goal is to help solve existing challenges, as well as achieve marketing goals. We also need to ensure a return on investment. There are a few avenues that businesses tend to take when it comes to issues like these. One solution is to create a single solution that tends to their needs. However, other enterprises will connect multiple applications that communicate with one another consistently. The next trend we'll talk about for enterprise is adjusting the web development roadmap. Creating products that are consistent on the front end is challenging. We can see this in large organizations, where many different teams work on projects.
That does sound really challenging. It's like having too many cooks in the same kitchen. How can we get around that?
Yes, it's a lot like that. Without overarching guidance and design, separate teams tend to lose consistency when working on a product. When the true objective is producing something appealing and consistent to the front-end user, design is of utmost importance. To do this, we can use style guides that contain libraries and documents on exactly what the product ought to look like on the front end.
That sounds like it would make it much easier to create a consistent product. If every team is following the same style guide, the resulting product would be appealing and comfortable for the user.
Applying design systems has become more popular for a number of reasons, such as the emergence of microservices and infrastructure as code. Enterprises involve platform engineering teams that can be responsible for web development with these design considerations in mind. Next, I want to bring back a topic we've talked about a lot in our previous episodes: artificial intelligence. If we are implementing AI solutions in apps, a large number of computational resources is required. However, cloud providers can offer these machine learning tools, although they can be very expensive. In addition to standard fees, providers have to charge fees to go towards taxes on the operations. Any new tool in the architecture can increase total costs as well.
If that's the case, then why use cloud ML solutions at all?
Well, if teams take their costs into consideration, it's possible to reduce costs by leaving out unneeded complex tools. For many challenges using ML, a neural network or GPU aren't always needed. Combinations of simple models and tools, along with Python code, can get the job done.
Another complex solution I can think of might be legacy app modernization. Are there any new innovations in that area?
When it comes to modernizing legacy apps, the outside-in approach is used to accomplish the task, where old code is wrapped up in new code. By doing this, the ability to manage functionality becomes more sophisticated. The alternative for legacy systems is the inside-out approach, which implies embedding the beginning of the new SPA, single-page applications, into the HTML document that contains the old one. The SPA frameworks don't necessarily need to be the same. As long as users can tolerate the performance hit of increased page size, it should work just fine. SPA injection allows for the removal of the old SPA until the new one completely takes over.
A few episodes ago, we talked about feasible machine learning solutions that used little to no data. I imagine that the less code that is used for web development projects, the better, right? Are there any software innovations recently related to this?
Absolutely. Just like in our previous episode about limited data ML applications, low to no code platforms are useful for solving specific challenges in very limited areas. Low code platforms allow businesses to develop apps and processes with the help of a visual interface and simple logic instead of intensive coding. There are other innovations out there as well, such as importing maps for micro front ends. When several micro front ends are combined in an application, the system selects which ones to use and how to load them. Developers intensively create unique solutions or apply a larger framework, like single SPA. Import maps, a new standard that assists in both instances, is now available as well. In both cases, a new standard might come in handy. Importing maps for micro front ends results in an accurate separation of concerns. The JavaScript code points out the part to be imported, and the script tag in the HTML shows where to load front ends from. The server is being used for HTML generation, so dynamic configurations could be applied while rendering. Nowadays, import maps are maintained by Chrome. Moving forward, there are a few interesting enterprise tools out there that are worth noting. Sentry is a great tool for reporting front-end errors. These can be errors detected on different end-user devices, and these are classified and processed through built-in features. Sentry makes debugging more convenient and efficient in the CDC pipeline because it's easier to find out which parts of the system's software errors are related to. Sentry is software as a service, but it ensures public access and is free for smaller use cases.
I can only imagine how difficult it must be in many circumstances where you see an error but have no idea what's causing it. That must make Sentry really helpful for enterprises out there.
Indeed. MLflow is another enterprise tool that helps to manage the machine learning lifecycle. This tool has a few components, such as a collection of runs, a collection of metrics and projects, and a registry to store and discover them in a central repository. MLflow supports open standards and could be combined with various tools of the ecosystem. MLflow is available in AWS and Azure and is improving rapidly, being suitable for modern projects. It can track tasks and support UI and API-based models. The main concern related to MLflow is that it forces massive unification into a single platform, including model scoring and serving.
It sounds like using MLflow can be really effective and helpful, but it requires a huge commitment. Enterprises will have to be sure that they want to make the transition before they make that choice.
Absolutely. Another trending tool out there right now is GitHub Actions. This is a helpful cloud tool that can turn simple cloud-hosted services into complex, code-defined pipeline servers that support fleets of build machines. Essentially, GitHub Actions allows you to automate tasks that are part of your software development lifecycle. Community-contributed tools using GitHub Actions have been implemented via the GitHub Marketplace. Code and Git history are available for export in the alternative host, but the development workflow on GitHub Actions doesn't have the same feature. Also, developers should determine whether a project is large enough to apply an independent pipeline tool. However, for small projects, GitHub Actions can really shine.
We've talked a lot about current trends that are important in web development today. But what about the future of web development? What can we expect next in the coming years?
Net 5 is crucial for bringing Net Core and Net Framework onto a single platform. Having a fragmented collection of development environments is problematic, and businesses will benefit greatly from consolidating onto a single environment instead. This is extremely helpful, no matter what the development target is, whether it be Windows, Mac OS, Linux, or the browser. Google's release of Flutter 2.0 has been very helpful for native iOS and Android apps. However, Flutter for Web has made it possible to use the platform for web development. Thus, it's now possible to develop apps for Android and iOS built out of the same codebase. Web forms are another front-end challenge, specifically with React. Instead of using FormKey, React Hook Form can be used. React hooks already existed when React Hook Form was created, so it could use them as a first-class concept. The framework operates by registering and tracking form elements as uncontrolled components via a hook, significantly reducing the need for re-rendering. It's also quite lightweight in size and in the amount of boilerplate code needed. You know, Maddie, I'm glad that you mentioned our episode about limited data machine learning. It's not the only industry application that could apply here. Other trends can definitely be applied here, like voice search powered by IoT, motion design, and an increased focus on cybersecurity.
Web development technologies are only going to continue improving, and it's really important that businesses stay up to date to remain competitive in their respective industry. If you are considering building a new project focused on web development or are looking to transition your existing service, we encourage you to reach out to software professionals like MobiDev to have a conversation about your business needs and goals. Together, we can come up with a solution that can offer you a reliable return on investment while keeping your business up to date in ever-changing industries.
That about wraps things up for this episode. Thank you so much for joining us today to learn about the latest advances in web development technologies. If you enjoyed this podcast, be sure to subscribe and share this podcast to help others learn about these trends as well.
Be sure to join us for our next episode to learn more about the latest technologies that are changing markets around the world. See you next time.